Okay, so this Q&A is probably going to be a little shorter. There's obviously not a lot going on here. Yeah, and then maybe we'll go into the questions channel in the Copywriting Collective, and then just go through like two or three more, just to see if there's anything that hasn't had an answer yet. So, when starting a piece of copy, what is the first thing you put in the blank document? Do you use a template? Not the guru copy templates with okay, so do you use a template? What steps you need to take to create the copy? For example, a headline section with checkboxes for the for yous, for big emotions, etc. Good question. When starting a fresh piece, I do like to start with the headline complex because it gives me a better idea of how it's going to inform the rest of my messaging. So that means that you have to do a bunch of research in advance, right? So you can kind of like craft together the different angles that you want to take. Yeah. Oftentimes, once you've landed on something, and then the headline is good, you'll find like, oh, okay, this is solid. This is gonna go through. I don't typically have a template that I use per se, but sometimes I'll have the for yous if I'm like really not feeling it and like not really. Well, if I'm not really feeling it, then that probably means my research wasn't good, right? So, yeah, it really just comes down to research. So I've been in the server for a year, haven't got a client yet. Do you think that's too long? I don't know what to think about that because it's just like it's such a personal situation, and there's so many. The circumstances are so different from person to person. I can't really make a judgment call on this. The question is like, it's not so much more. It's not so much about like whether or not it's taking too long. I reckon it's more about like, do you feel satisfied with the amount of effort you're actually putting into this? If it's been a year and you haven't gotten a single client, it makes me think of like several things, which I'm not saying these are true. It's just these are the first things that come to mind. You're not maybe you're not putting as much effort as you could be, or maybe you're not approaching it in a smarter way, or maybe you're trying to brute force things without really understanding the proper way to go about it, or maybe like your English is bad. I don't know. I like really don't know, or like maybe you're just not outreaching properly. There's clearly something in your process that's not working, and it's not so much that that's taking too long. I think you just need to pause and start thinking about your process, and then ask, like, really start dissecting, being really harsh to yourself about what's working and what's not, and how you could do better. But again, circumstantial. It's all circumstantial. It's not the end all be all. I don't know what your circumstances are, but that's just what comes to mind. And I'm not saying that what I'm saying is true. I hear Upwork is a race to the bottom, especially for beginners. Should you still take jobs for $50 to write like 50 emails and strategies to use ISV the most effectively? So we'll like address the idea that Upwork is a race to the bottom, especially for beginners. I would say that Upwork is a race to the bottom for beginners because, well, first of all, copywriting doesn't really the perception of copywriting at the lowest level is that the barrier to entry isn't that high. Like, all you need to do is know English and know how to write. So barrier to entry is not that high, compared to something like SEO, where it requires some technical knowledge, or like software development, which requires a lot of technical knowledge. And so in that way, it is a race to the bottom. There's so many people who are trying to enter the field, and then they think of places like Fiverr, Indeed, and Upwork, and just various contract freelance job boards as the easiest way to get their first clients. Because compared to cold outreach, a job board is a little bit more deterministic. A job board, people's intentions are a little clearer. Because if you're on a job board, you're looking to hire. Whereas with cold pitching, you don't know if the person you're contacting like wants to hire, right? So, in that regard, yes, it is a race to the bottom because the skillful are so low. People are trying to come in and just snag up as many. They're trying to go for volume, right? Quantity over quality. If I can get 10 $5 jobs, that's $50, and it might be easier to get 10 $5 jobs than to get one $50 job. Do I think that's a good approach? No, absolutely not. I think if you're starting out and you're new, then going for that approach might actually not be that bad. But instead of, trying to focus on the monetary value of it, you're trying to build up social proof to show that you know what you're doing and you can do a good job. So should you take jobs for $50 to write like 50 emails? I don't know. Like, it depends on you. If that's, it depends on you, depends on where you are in your career, depends on what you're looking for and what your goals are. If your goal is to make money, that's not a goal. You understand? Like, be more intentional with the steps you are taking to move forward. Everybody's goal is to make money. What differs, what changes, is how you get there. So pause and think about it. Use your brain, right? Think about what your goal is, and then break that down into smaller goals, and then break those smaller goals into even smaller goals until you have a roadmap with milestones that are achievable. Should you take a $50 job to write 50 emails? Have you had any paid work before? If you haven't, maybe the value of this job isn't the $50. Maybe the value of the job is the experience of being able to write emails and then getting a good review. Maybe that's the value. Maybe that value far outweighs $50, right? But if your goal is just to make money, then you're not going to see that. If your goal is just to make money, you're going to see the $50 and the 50 emails and go, okay, that's too much work for not enough pay. I'm not going to take it. And do you know how many people think that way and are forever stuck in the low pay scale, and like they're never able to move forward because they're short-sighted. They see the money and they don't see all the other intangible benefits attached to it, and they don't see the different like miles, the different levers that they can actually take advantage of to move forward, to propel themselves. Every job you take, you should be taking with the mindset of, how can I use this to launchpad myself? How can this job take me to a better job? And if you're not thinking in that way, you're going to be stuck forever. You're going to be stuck in that race to the bottom, and you're going to forever be a beginner. Any strategies to use ISVA the most effectively? ISVA, like with all templates and frameworks, are just templates and frameworks. References. You're not supposed to stick to them as though it's the word of God. What you do with templates and frameworks is you try to learn why they exist. Try to understand the principles behind them, and then adapt those principles to yourself. You understand? So ISVA, right? That's introduce yourself. I don't remember what the S is. And then V was a value proposition, and A was ask a question. Why does that exist? Like, just think about it. Why is introducing yourself important? Because in business dealings, you want to know who you're dealing with. In business dealings, you want to make sure that the person you're working with isn't just an anonymous figure behind the screen. Introducing yourself is more than just, oh, hey, my name is Paul. Introducing yourself could be having a profile picture with your face, having a name, right? If your Upwork profile doesn't have a profile picture, doesn't have like a name that's like feels trustable, your Upwork profile doesn't have, like an introduction or a bio that feels relatable and trustworthy, you're not introducing yourself properly. You understand? Introduce yourself. I'm gonna skip the S because I never remember what that is. Value. Why does the value proposition exist? It's not to just pitch work to the client. The right value injected in the right place portrays competency, expertise, experience, credibility, and authority. That's why the value exists. If I, as a business owner, am trying to hire a freelancer, I'm trying to hire a freelancer to solve a problem for me. I want to know if the person applying to my gig understands what that problem is, and understands how to solve that problem, right? That's why the value proposition exists. And ask a question. Why is that important here? Because you want to create an open loop. because you want them to participate in the conversation. This is not an application letter. This is like an opening line for a conversation. You want to continue the conversation. So use your brain. Think about why you do the things you do and break it down. If you keep like letting yourself, if you keep, forcing yourself to stay in this rut and you're not looking to move forward, and you just don't understand the steps it takes to get to your goal, then you don't have any progress. You don't have a blueprint to move forward. And you shouldn't be relying wholeheartedly on someone else's blueprint. Everybody's situation and circumstance is personal and different. What you learn from other people's blueprints and other people's journeys it's again, the principles behind why they made the decisions they made, and then applying it to yourself. It's just as simple as that. What are the types of copy that most business owners don't use to grow their sales that we could sell to them as a service? Most don't use opt-ins. So the type of copy. I think that most business owners aren't really looking for copywriters in general. I think they're looking for more general strategists or marketers who could bring tangible and kind of quantifiable results. What I mean, and I'm thinking of like local businesses right now, right? So the majority of businesses in the United States, for example, aren't like big corporations, right? It's just like smaller businesses in your area. They're not really looking for copywriters. They're looking for like result drivers. So I wouldn't pitch myself as a copywriter. I would pitch myself as someone who can get you more customers. And then I would also, explain to them how I would do that. I would like write a landing page. I would run ads to them. And then I would get their contacts, and then I would set up like a phone system for them. And of course, I wouldn't say it like that. I would translate it into terms that they would more easily understand and digest on a results basis. But for the types of businesses that are hiring copywriters online, let's say, I would say a lot of them are looking for like landing pages, emails, landing pages, emails. I feel like a lot of what I did as a freelancer was landing pages and emails, website audits, funnel audits, things like that. Honestly, like stuff that you're already aware of. The trick is like figuring out how to pitch them. The trick is like figuring out how to kind of be relatable to them, right? And it's not the easiest thing, and it does take a little bit of experience, but also just pause and think for a second, right? Just use your brain. And so we're at 13 minutes. I think that's a good length, and I'll just leave it at that. Hope it was helpful.